you want someone to look you in your eyes, one voice that you can trust and get you out of this mess. Tell me what I have to do, not one there, one down there, one over your shoulder.
Charlotte Daly of Male Sport Boxing, joined by AJ Hearn. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, excited. Seems like big fight after big fight. Boxing never stops, and a massive one here today.
I know it's relentless, but we can't complain too much. We are here for the Usyk Fury rematch. I want to kick it off straight away by asking, is Usyk unbeatable?
It's a good question, and the answer might be yes. I mean, we're going to find out December 21st. I feel like one of the problems is when Usyk's shared 12 rounds with you, it actually makes him more of a favourite in the next fight because he's got a very smart boxing brain. Don't forget, he inputs that data over the 12 rounds to adapt accordingly during the fight. Now he's got a chance to really input it and, you know, take on board everything that he experienced against Tyson Fury. So Fury's going to have to make changes in this fight. The problem with that is Usyk just adapts so well to every kind of style and every kind of challenge. So, you know, Fury's in this fight. He's absolutely a live horse in the fight, but I do think you have to favour Oleksandr Usyk. As much as we want to see Tyson Fury win this fight, it's hard to bet against the genius of Oleksandr Usyk.
People have an opinion on the first fight, whether it was a case of Fury switched off or whether it was a case of Usyk just outclassed him and it was the longer term game plan. In your opinion, what do you think happened?
I saw a different kind of fight. You know, I thought Fury was in control for the first half of the fight. You know, some people had it quite even after 6 rounds. I didn't. I had Fury up. I think that it was a constant pressing of Oleksandr Usyk. You know, Tony Bellew said to me, he kind of wears you out mentally because you're so switched on of what he's doing that he drains you over the period of time. And whether it was Fury switching off or just getting tired, you know, but it was the constant pressure of Oleksandr Usyk. Don't forget that this 6'2", 15-stone guy pushed back this 6'8", 20-stone guy and beat him up in the fight. And that's something that he hasn't done before in this division. So that was quite remarkable. And you know, people keep talking now about Tyson Fury needs to be more aggressive in this fight. We've been there with AJ. You know, AJ tried to box him in the first fight, it really didn't work. Then everyone said, you've just got to be more aggressive. He tried that in the second fight, had much more success, but still couldn't overcome him. So I don't think the answer is just to be more aggressive. You know, Usyk's a very good counter-puncher. He uses angles very well, he uses the ring very well. But listen, Fury's also a very smart fighter, and they're going to have to come up with a game plan, but that's very difficult to do against Usyk.
How do you think Fury's been taking the loss? Because it's actually been quite quiet on social media. He's only recently kind of come back into the frame of saying that he's back training.
Hopefully it really hurt. It has to. Like, if that loss didn't hurt Tyson Fury, he's got no chance in a rematch. If he just thought, oh well, that's just boxing, you know, I'll have another crack. It's got to eat you up, and it's got to drive you to train harder, to think smarter. Fury knows the game inside out. He also knows how good Usyk is. And as much as Usyk shared those rounds with Tyson Fury shared those rounds with Usyk. So he's got his corner team, but he's also smart enough from an IQ boxing perspective to try and figure it out himself. Trying to figure out the code to crack Usyk is probably one of the hardest in the sport. But look, Fury's got the brain to be effective at trying.
Fury said that he's not changing his corner, but do you think it is important that he has one voice in the corner this time around?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, in an ideal world, it would be. But at the same time, Fury, I think, has been around and grown up around the madness his whole. So I don't think, like, in that moment, I think the madness is not really overcoming him. Yeah. So, but ideally, when things get tough in a fight, you want someone to look you in your eyes, one voice that you can trust and get you out of this mess. Tell me what I have to do, not one there, one down there, one over your shoulder, especially when you're concussed in the fight that he was last time. But, you know, each to their own. What works for Fury might not work for Usyk and vice versa.
When we look at the heavyweights as a whole, do you think that this is now almost the changing of the guard? You've got AJ, who's just suffered a loss himself. You've got Tyson Fury, who's suffered a loss. You've got Deontay Wilder, the exact same, and Oleksandr Usyk is getting older. Do you think that we're in a point in boxing now where it's pivotal and it could be the end of an era and the start of a new era?
Maybe. I mean, I think definitely a lot of the top heavyweights in that top 10 are in their mid-30s. So although you can go on in your mid-30s and late 30s, that is generally the last few chapters. And I think when you look at AJ, when you look at Usyk, when you look at Fury, you know, even when you look at Zhang or, you know, maybe Parker, these guys are coming to the end. You know, then you've got Dubois, you've got Wardley, you've got Fisher, you've got Itoma. You know, you've got Justice Honey, you've got, you know, all these guys who are in their early, mid-20s that are coming through now. And you need to bring those heavyweights through, and you need to build their profile while you do it, because let's be honest, that current guard of heavyweight are kind of the flagship division and the flagship names of professional boxing.
Yeah. Daniel Dubois did put on a stellar performance against Anthony Joshua. How is AJ doing? What is kind of the thought process now for him going forward?
He's good. I mean, look, he's told us categorically, I want the rematch. The issue really is time. February's coming around very quickly. You know, when the fight's over, it's like, oh yeah, you got 6-7 weeks off, and then you go back into training camp, and then, you know, you go and have a few scans on a few bits and pieces. And if he's going to fight in February, it would mean going back into camp in about three weeks. Ideally, it's not enough time, but at the same time, you know, he wants to do it. So we have to just look at the timings and see whether he's fit to return in February, or whether we wait till probably May would certainly be better from a body perspective. But, you know, he's pretty adamant about what he wants. I think waiting till May might allow Dubois to have another fight in the interim, and then maybe we rematch in the summer, or we see what happens on December 21. You know, and Tyson Fury hopefully can win that fight, and then we can set up a massive world championship fight with AJ. But right now it's just about seeing when he'll be ready physically to return to camp.
I always think with boxers, especially with boxers, because boxing becomes their entire life, and just the mindset of fighting is just different to any sport anyway. But when you talk with AJ and you talk about how many fights he has left and life potentially after boxing, what is the feeling you get from him? Is he somebody that's comfortable with the idea of walking away, or does the idea scare him and he wants to stay in the game?
I don't think any fighter is ever comfortable with the idea of walking away, because it's their whole life. It's consumed them for, you know, in some cases 30 odd years. AJ lives and breathes the sport of boxing, and it's been incredible to him, and he loves it dearly. He's probably, like many fighters, one of those guys that will need someone to say, I think it's time, you know, and that will be decided really by not just the fights, but how he looks day to day, you know. And a lot, when you see a fighter deteriorate, you see it in the gym. Don't worry about that. I mean, you know, you can see it in fights, but you will see it every day in the gym, and that's not been the case. You know, the last camp, he looked better than he's ever looked. He didn't perform on the night. Now we go to this camp, and we keep a close eye, and we see how he looks. And, you know, everything that we're seeing physically about him, you know, he's still in his prime, but obviously he got beat. So you have to evaluate everything. But, you know, I see him have anywhere between 2 and 5 fights. You know, it just depends what happens as you go. You know, if he was to get beat again, you have to seriously consider your position.
Yeah.
If he was to go on another great run, you know, people would be calling him to carry on. So, you know, he's got a team of people around him that really care about him, and a team that watch him closely every single day. So we'll make sure that collectively that the right decision comes when the time is right, but it's not yet.
You say maybe 2 fights left, and I know what the fans will want, but will that Fury fight be one of them regardless of what happens in December?
I think that if we're not physically ready to return in February, then that will open the door to fight Tyson Fury, win or lose. I mean, look, if Fury was to get beat against Usyk, I could see him and AJ having 2 fights as almost like
the last hurrah.
The last hurrah, which would be the greatest hurrah, I think, of their entire career. Now, if Fury was to win the fight, they could still do the 2 fights, but it would be for the unified World Heavyweight Championship. That adds a different kind of element to the fight. But I think both guys would really regret it if they left the sport without facing each other. And I know the fans would never forgive me.
Well, before I let you go, one fight that is on my mind is Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
She's obviously back in action soon. My only concern with it is if the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight doesn't happen, will Katie still fight?
Well, it's not our show, so you'd hope so. I mean, look, the fight got postponed once. Katie chose to wait to fight again, and you'd hope that they're good to their word and keep the show on. Does Mike Tyson make it to the ring? I absolutely hope not. But at the same time, you know, if it means Katie Taylor fighting Serrano, then I hope so. Because, you know, she's been waiting for that fight for a long time. She's been promised that fight, and hopefully it happens in mid-November.